Let's see if the live is working here. I don't know if it's working. Hopefully you can hear me. I think you can. And I'm looking to see if it's gonna. Oh, it is working. Excellent. A little late start for me today. I'm kind of starting on time. It's 11 o'clock-ish. So good morning. Happy Monday. Happy November. Hope you had a happy Halloween. Great weekend. It is Monday, November 1st. And there's an airplane flying outside being very loud. I'm just trying to get set up here. So if you will give me just a moment to finish setting up my windows. I was really making a mad dash to get things ready for this morning. It's been a little too much time drinking coffee and chilling out and kind of lost track of time. Not good, because I looked down and I was like, oh, look, I'm supposed to start in 15 minutes and I haven't set up anything. So I had to run around and do a lot of crazy stuff. Excuse me. This morning before I got out here and got things ready to go, and the shop is a little disheveled. Let's see. I did a lot of finishing this weekend. And I was in here for the better part of Saturday and Sunday trying to spray a lot of lacquer, and it takes time because you spray the lacquer down and obviously you have to wait a little while before you can spray another coat. And the way I try to kind of double up my production, pardon me, I gotta clean the sleep out of my eyes, I guess, I don't know. The way I try to double up my production is by spraying two bases, not at once, but I spray one and then I move it off to the side to let it dry while I move a new one in place and spray that one. And then I hit my timer for 15 minutes. 15 is usually a pretty good amount of time for a lacquer coat to dry, to be able to touch it. And so I would do one, move it, spray one, wait 15 minutes, then I would spray that one, move it, put the other one back and spray it, wait 15 minutes. So all those things kind of adding up, it takes a large part of the day to really get things going. And I had a lot of bases. I still have two more to be done. So I got everything done but two. And the reason I'm trying to get all this stuff done is that if when I check the weather this weekend, it's supposed to be really chilly this week. in terms of, I mean, not like Arctic cold, but it's going to be probably in the 50s for highs for the remainder of the week. And I need that, like right now it's 56 outside, it's 65 here in the shop, which 65 is okay. 50s is too cold for me to really spray lacquer, so I have to heat the shop in order to spray lacquer. So I'm trying to get it all done before it gets cold, and that way I don't have any lacquer to worry about. I can just move on with other stuff and not worry about having to spray lacquer in the cold air, because lacquer doesn't really like to lay down well when it's under 60-ish degrees. I like it to be about 65 at least. 65 to 85 is kind of my temperature range. And like I said, with it getting colder, and it's going to be colder in the shop because I don't really have any sort of air conditioning, heater exchange, anything in here. I have some portable heaters that I can put up in here, but I don't like to use those until I need to. So if it's like 50 something in here, I don't care. I'll put a sweatshirt on and work in my shop. That's fine. But for spraying lacquer and such, I need the temperatures to be up a little bit. So I wanted to try and do a mad dash to get that stuff done this weekend. Like I said, I did quite a bit, and you can see, like, this is one that is now finished. So this is one of the hickory bases that I finished, and yeah, you can see it. So there's a little bit of a semi-gloss sheen to it. They're not super shiny. They're semi-gloss, which is what I like. That's my preferred method. The base top, pardon me, I'm going to reach way over here. This is the top right here, so I'm going to put that in. So there we go. There's the finished base. It looks really sloppy and everything in here, but that's actually in the wood grain. This is all these marks and such you see inside here. That's actually all part of the wood grain. Just like this stuff on the back. This is all part of this hickory, we'll call it character, for lack of a better word. So that's the character of that. I also have, hang on a second, I'll go grab it, because I need to move it anyway. I have one more base, pardon me for walking in front of you, over here that has been finished. And this is a cherry base. So I did one hickory, one cherry here, were the last ones I did yesterday. Oh, that's upside down. So I'll show you, this one is completed. So this is the cherry. So it's a cherry, it's just a plain front cherry, but a nice storage compartment. And it turned out really pretty. So this looks really nice, right? Looks good. And I'm just gonna set that over here on top of this one for right now. Actually, I'm gonna move those inside in just a moment because I need my workspace, but I just figured I'd set them there for a moment to show you. So anyway, that's what I was doing for most of the weekend, was spraying lacquer. In between, I kind of took advantage of the downtimes in between watching the lacquer dry to break out my sharpening stones and just sharpen a few chisels and such. It takes a while to sharpen chisels, especially if they haven't been sharpened in a while and they get really dull. You have to flatten the backs. This is a cheap one, but I still wanted to get it sharp. So, because it's a nice wide one and I use it for a lot of different things. So I just spent some time putting some edges on some chisels, and I got a couple of others in the drawer that I worked on. And then I also put a new edge on my little block plane blade. So I did that, and that takes a while. So it's a nice kind of a fill the space, because those are little shop things that you always just need to do. And it's kind of, nobody likes to take time away from their projects to sharpen tools. So I figure, you know, I've got some time, I might as well just utilize it, because I can't really do a whole lot. I don't want to be making sawdust while I'm finishing, because I don't want to put dust in the air while I'm finishing. So I don't want to do a lot of cutting and making of things. So it was just a good time to go ahead and, you know, throw some chisels on the sharpening stones, get some nice edges on them, which will help me down the road. I'm going to be doing, at some point in time, I'm going to be doing a bow tie or two in that cherry table that I have. And I need sharp chisels for that, because you really need to have clean edges for your bow ties. Right now, I got to run this real quick. I've got some dust here. Hang on a second. No? So something else I was playing with this weekend was I broke out my Dovetail Jig that I have, which I really like my Dovetail Jig. It takes, like I don't use it all the time, so every now and then I have to break it out and refamiliarize myself with it. It's a different kind of jig. It's not one that most people are used to seeing. A lot of people have seen the Porter cable jig where you slide your board up into this thing and you lock it down and then you run the router into it and stuff. This one's a little different. It looks like this. And the reason I like this is because I can load my wood in here and run this on my router table. So this is very cool. Peachtree Woodworking carries this. I got this at the woodworking show, and it's the woodworking show is kind of a, I think they do, what is it, about 20 some shows a year. Now they haven't done it in the past couple of years because of COVID, but it's usually there's classes, there are vendors, so you can buy tools, you can buy wood, you can buy woodworking stuff, and there's a ton of demonstrations and classes and such. But anyway, I bought it there. This is, I was just doing, and you can see here, let me turn this camera on so I can give you a little close-up. Beep, beep, beep. There we go. So I was doing dovetails. And now this is a little sloppy and it needs to be cleaned up, and these weren't cut to size. I was just doing some testing, but if I slide this in, there you go. So you can see that I get these nice dovetail joints. Because I was thinking I would like to do something different for my next, I've got some bases that I want to make with some different wood. I've got some fancier wood that I want to use. And I'd like to do something different in terms of the joinery, instead of just my standard rabbet joint that I do for all of these. So I thought I'd do something different. So I just broke out some scrap wood and was giving that a test this weekend. And it went okay, but I don't know if I'm going to continue doing that. I think I might try something different. So there's very specific blades, or not blades, but router bits that I have to use for this. And I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to get my wrench here. I'm going to put these blades away because I think I'm going to use a different tool. And instead of doing the dovetails, I'm going to do box joints. Now, you can do box joints. They actually sell a box joint, there's a box joint bit that you can get for that actual setup that I have that works with this. But that's not what I'm going to use, because I actually have an entire jig made by Incra just for doing box joints. Ooh, that's very squeaky. So I have an entire jig made for just doing box joints. So I think once I get done with the stuff that we're going to do today, then we can maybe break out the box joint jig and give that a run, because I haven't used it in a long time and I would really like to maybe give it a whirl. Now, you can use just a single 1/8 inch blade. I think 1/8 inch is the thinnest you can make your finger joints or box joints with this jig. But I'm going to break out my Dado set, because I think I either want to do like a 1/2 inch or 5/8 thick fingers, so they just fit together just like this. You know, it's kind of like a dovetail, except they're square and they fit together like that. So I think I'm going to do that. Let me put these away because I like to keep these stored so I don't lose them. These are the ones, like I said, that go with that particular device. And then every now and then, like I said, I have to break out my Dovetail Whiz. That's what it's called, is a Dovetail Whiz. I have to break out the instructions just to make sure I'm not screwing things up when I use it. And the reason is, like, you can sort of do it a little backwards, but you should always, there's an order that you want to do for dovetails. It's tails, then pins. And I always forget which one it is first. So I always like to reference that. Oh, I did finish the big mallet. And this turned out really pretty. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. So I've got that really cool tiger striping on the figured maple on here, which looks really, that turned out really nice. So that's all that figured maple. And if you remember, I hit that with a Mission Brown dye stain a couple of times, and then we sanded it off. So it just left the stain in the figure, and then the surface wood was sanded down. So it looks really pretty. And then the top of this is all walnut. And then we did the little wedges in there, got those evenly spaced. And this thing is ready to go. I did hit it with a second coat. I think on Friday we left off, I had just done one coat of finish on here, and I did a tongue oil finish. And I came back on Saturday and did another coat, and then I used some Renaissance wax and gave it a little wax job just to give it a little extra coating on top of that. And so this thing is now ready for, I don't want to use it because look at it, it's so pretty, but it is ready for use. So we have a really nice mallet to use. So when I want to take this sharp chisel, I can now use that. I also have like my carving mallet here, and I use this a lot, but it's round. And so round isn't always the best head for using on materials. So I definitely need to change things up, and that's why I made the square face mallet, just so that I would have some options when it comes to smacking things, right? And I couldn't believe I didn't have it. I think I've made one. I made one for my brother. I made one of these a long time ago for my brother. I just never made one for myself, and that was kind of silly, I guess. But anywho, I did finish that. So that was my weekend. I did some finish on that. I put finish on here, sprayed a lot of lacquer. Like I said, I still have two to do. And one of them is a walnut and one of them is a cherry. So I have a walnut and a cherry base that still need to be sprayed today. Hopefully the temperature will remain warm enough. Like I said, it's 65 in the shop right now, but it's only 56 outside. If it gets a little warmer outside, that would be nice. I think today is the last of the warmish days. But if I can get that done, that will be good. And then I don't have any finishing to do for a little bit. And then I'll work that out, you know, as needed for new finishing projects. All right, I'm just gonna put a couple of these things away because they're kind of need to get out of my way. Now, the last thing we did Friday in terms of project-wise was to put this base. This is what I call Franken Base. So we put this base into clamps. We glued it in. We made our rabbet cuts, created our joinery, put the base together, and now I can take these off and we can move forward with the rest of the cuts that we need to make on here. We need to make two rabbet cuts on here using two different rabbet bits. One of them is just a 1/4 inch bit, so it makes a 1/4 inch rabbet cut. And we will use that in the bottom of the base, and that will give us our little ledge for placing our piece of plywood that will become the bottom of the box. And then, well, just knocking things over. It was just some wood. Then what I will do is, why is that one so, oh, I had to redo that one, that's fine. Then I will do another cut with I think it's a 5/8, I can't remember what or 3/8 or something. I've got a different bit with a larger head, which is this one right here. This is a larger rabbeting bit right here. So you can see it's much chunkier. And this one actually has replaceable, what is that? Bearings up top. So different size bearings to get different size cuts. The thing about this one is it gives me, when I use this bearing, it gives me the depth of cut I need, but it also gives me a radius on the inside corner, which is appropriate for the machine that fits into this base. And that ledge that we're going to do is what becomes the platform for the machine to sit inside. It gives me a little ledge all the way around, and the machine sits right inside that ledge. So. That is what we're looking at. And I'm trying to think, what should we start with? Now, if you look at this base, you will hopefully remember I cut these sides right here. This side and this side came out of a different base that was screwed up. And in order to make the most of my wood, I repurposed them, but these have already been cut so they have a piece of plywood right here on this thin ledge, and you can see right here, hopefully you can see that, there's a cut right here where it was actually already, this one was already hit with the rabbeting bit because it was already rabbeted out for another base. But I figured, you know what, I can just remove this plywood by doing the rabbet cut again, and then it will fit perfectly as I continue that rabbet cut all the way around the perimeter here. So I think this will work. So we're going to do that. I think we'll do that first. We'll do the bottom first. And that means I need to come over to the table over here, and I need to get my 1/4 inch rabbeting bit. That's probably the easiest one to do. Let's see, where is my rabbeting bit? I put my bits away this weekend and now I can't find them, and I usually just keep that one at the table over there. All right, what did I do with you? I don't see it there. Oh, there it is. There it is. All right. So I've got my little rabbeting bit. You know what? let me just point down here with this camera and give you a secondary view here. There we go. All right, so I'll switch cameras for you so you can sort of see what I'm doing down here. And first I'm going to get all these clamps out of the way because they are in my way. And I usually just store these down at the end of my fence here. I was looking at table saws. I think I talked about this the other day, where I was looking at like, you know, I think I might get a new table saw, and looking at table saw options. And of course, saw stop came up, and it's like, I might have to just spring for the saw stop. Might have to spend the cash. But when I was looking, I was trying to establish, well, how big of a table? This is a 30-inch table. It's a big table. And the reason they make a 36, but that puts it out this far. I know it's hard for you to see that. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I think 36 is too big for my shop, right? So this is the wing that comes off the side of my table. So right here, the table saw is actually on this side. This is an extension wing. I built this table to go into this wing, and if they sell a 36-inch, that will come out to here. That's more than I need. I like the 30-inch, so I might keep this and be able to put this table inside of, sorry, the camera's attached to this, so if I do this, it shakes it. But put this, this configuration into a 30-inch table. So I think I might be looking at the 30-inch professional cabinet saw from SawStop. 30-inch is cheaper too. But one of the things I'm trying to decide is, do I do a 1 3/4 horse, or do I do a 3 horse? A 1 3/4 horse is usable with 120 power, so I wouldn't have to add any outlets to my shop. But my thought is, you know, if I'm going to upgrade my table, shouldn't I get something with more power, you know, to power through cuts and whatnot? And the 3-horse does require 240 power. Everybody says 220. It's not 220, it's 240. It's 120 and 240, but people still get stuck on the whole, you know, oh, it's 110. No, it's not 110. Hasn't been 110 for ages. All right, I'm going to see if I can set this depth of cut up here based on the one that I had. And generally what I would do is get a piece of scrap plywood that is the same material that I will be using for a bottom. And I keep some in my scrap box here. So this is the wood that I would be using. It's very thin, 1/4-inch ply. And I've used this for my base bottoms. And I just set this up so that it is just, I want to cut just slightly deeper than this, but I'm like usually maybe a 1/16 of an inch. It's not much. And the reason I go deeper than the ply and not just on the ply is that I don't want, well, I'll show you on this base. I don't want the base bottom to be perfectly flush. If you can see here, okay, that's a good view. So you can see that there's actually a little bit of depth. There's a little depth around the inside of this, right? And that means that I can level this off and get it flat. And if I need to do any additional sanding, I'm not sanding into the plywood bottom. It's set deep enough that allows me a little bit of latitude in fixing any bottom issues that I might have without sanding into that plywood. So that's kind of important to me. Now, one thing I need to do here is get these bases that I have finished. I need to get these out of my way. So give me just a moment. Pardon me for reaching in front, but I'm going to take these and put them inside so they can be in my house and finish their curing inside the house. But they also gets them out of my way and gives me a little bit more room to work. All right, what else do I need to do? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to, let's see, what time is it? We're okay. All right, so that's a little bit thicker, like I said, about a 1/16 of an inch. Now, one thing I haven't done yet, which I need to do, because this base just came out of the clamps, is I'm going to need to flatten it or make sure that it's flat. And the way that I can do that is to put it over here at the table saw that has my cast iron top. I'm gonna get this stuff out of the way real quick. And I use this surface right here because it's very flat. And I wanna make sure that my base bottom, before I do any rabbeting, I'm gonna make sure my base bottom is flat. Oh, wow. See, so that is very flat. Because sometimes when I glue these things up, the sides will shift a little bit. They'll shift. And when you put the glue pressure on there, it shifts just a little bit, and that leaves some high spots or whatever. But this, as you can see, I push from corner to corner, and there's no tipping. So this is perfectly flat, which is fantastic, because that means we can just move right over to the router and route this thing out for the bottom. And yep, that looks to be perfect. And I think we've got everything set here. Move this over. I'm just gonna get things set up here. This is the lid that will go into this at some point in time. It will fit into here when we make the rabbet, and then I'll cut this down. It's thick right now, so it'll get cut down, but I need to kind of keep track of that because I keep moving it around. But I think we're in good shape. I need all these tools to be out of the way. Try to get all the clutter out so that we don't have any issues here. And got my dust collection, which I will put up here on, I'm just gonna rest it up here. It's kind of useless, although it does allow me to clean up after the fact. All right, so all I'm gonna do is run this bit around the interior of the base. I'm going to switch cameras for you though, because right now, if I turn this on, because that camera you're looking at is actually attached to the, it's actually attached to my table saw. So if I actually did run the table saw, or run the router, it would vibrate and all you'd see is a shaky picture. So I'll set this here, and I just have a different view that we can go to. We can go to this view right here, that's fine. And my router bit is set up. I've got the depth set right here. We will run that around the perimeter. Now the router bit turns counterclockwise, which means we need to make sure when we're running our material on the inside of a project that we move it so that the back of the bit is moving across this direction. You don't want to go this way, you want to go this direction. So we put it in here and we move it across, and then we will just continue working our way around the perimeter until we get the whole thing done. Now the other thing is I usually don't do the full depth. I will run it lightly around. There's one other thing I do. Actually, I almost forgot about this. It's very important. Is I like to score the inside of the material to give a cut line. And I'm going to just use my gauge here to get the bottom set to the correct depth. If I can get this to work right. Because if I have a cut line, then it kind of prevents any tear out from the bit. So what I'm going to do is get my marking gauge here and set that, loosen this up, we'll extend it out, and I'm just going to push that in to right there. Now I can make a test cut. I can get a piece of wood and make a test cut to make sure that my line here, you can see that's just, hopefully you can see that it's extended out just a little bit. I think it's just a little over 1/4 of an inch. Let me find a piece of wood that has a nice flat bottom, and then we can give this a test. This will do just fine. And what I will do is mark this. We'll just do it on the edge here. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to mark this so that I can make sure that the top edge of this rabbeting bit is contacting that line that I just put in here. Now it's hard for you to see that line probably. If I take a pencil and put it inside there, well, maybe. Might be a little easier to see. All right, so here's my, oops, a little high. I don't know if you can see that or not. There you go. So you can see that line that I put. Focus. Okay, see that line I put on there? That line should match up to the top of this router bit. And I'm just going to make a test cut along here and see if I'm cut close to it. And like I said, the purpose of that is to just cut those fibers so that if there's any tear out, it'll tear clean along that cut line and won't be ugly on the inside. So before I do that, I have to run inside for just a moment. So I'm going to take just a quick break and I will be right back. All right, thank you for that. I just needed to take a quick little bio break, and now we can do a test cut. So I have the router table plugged in. I've got dust collection here, and I'm just going to do one test cut right along the side of this, see if it matches my marked line, and then we will go from there. Now, because I did not do that on the inside of a box, it threw stuff everywhere. But here's my cut, and all I'm going to do is get my market gauge here, and I'm just going to check, and that is nice, and it cut right on my line. So we are perfectly set for me to mark the pieces. And if I get my little piece of plywood here, you can see that we'll do it this way, that when I insert this, I have a little bit of a ledge. There you go. You can see that there's a little bit extra up here. So it's not flush. There's a little bit, like maybe a 1/16 of an inch. And that is exactly what we want. All right. Now I need to mark the interior of this. I need to make sure I'm going to be marking the correct sides. Don't mark the top because we're not cutting the top. I say that because I've done it, because I'm not very bright sometimes. All right, now, I don't need to do the sides because they've already been cut. There's just plywood in there, and the real hardwood does not need to be marked up, but this part does. So I'm just gonna run this across here, and I'm gonna do it a few times, just to, like I said, all I'm doing is breaking the fibers in there. So if there is any chip out or whatever from this blade, which rabbet bits can create some chip out, but hopefully that chip will tear right along that marking gauge line and still give us a nice clean look to the inside of the base. And that's what we're after is, you know, we want the inside to look nice and clean when we install this base bottom. All right, I have my lines inside. They are good. We can now make some, let's do some cutting here, shall we? I think we're in good shape. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna see how that, hope that plywood gets cut out of there nicely. But, well, only one way to find out. Maybe not the best shirt for this operation, but that's okay, it worked. And you can see there's some bigger pieces that fly out of there, and that's why I said, you know, that score mark really helps. My corners, where my base bottoms were fitting previously into the sides, actually turned out pretty good here. So do they match up exactly? Not really, but they will work perfectly because remember also underside, so we don't care necessarily as long as it's a clean fit on the inside. That's what we want. And we got a really nice perimeter cut with this rabbet bit all along the edge here. Nice and straight, no tear outs. And we've got a super sharp, crisp line along the inside. That is the important part because that's just going to give us a nice clean look on the inside of our base where it attaches to the base bottom. So that was my goal, and we accomplished that. I had already sanded this stuff. I'm just hitting it again because that wheel that runs inside that bearing sometimes leaves a little mark on the wood. Even though it's supposed to contact the wood and work with the wood, sometimes it leaves a little trail because it's supposed to meet the wood and then roll on the wood, but for whatever reason, sometimes it just leaves a little mark. So we've sanded the insides of these before we glued it together because it makes life easier. But I'm just cleaning up my cuts now. And I'm going to clean up those edges. So that was nice. That worked out well. And we can do one of two things now. We can do the top route, right? So we could get the large router bit right here. And we could do the route that fits in the top, which allows us to set the machine inside here. So that's what this one's for. So we can do the top route, or we can choose to make the base bottom first, get that sized and cut and ready to be glued in, and then we can do the top route after that. Now, once that bottom route has been done and we get the base bottom done, I'm going to have to glue that in. All right, you got to give me a second here. I made a lot of dust, so I'm going to clean this dust up really quickly because it is kind of getting everywhere. More importantly, it was getting in my computer. Excuse me. All right. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, but I do have, I do have chat boxes open here. So if you want to say hello or ask a question or throw out a comment, please feel free to jump into the chat box. I try to monitor that as much as I can. So I may not catch it instantly the moment you type it in, but I will hopefully catch it within a few minutes of you doing so. It's hard to keep track when I'm working with tools and trying not to cut my fingers off. All right, so I have a piece of plywood that I used for some other base bottoms, so it's right here. And what we can do is a little quick measuring to see. I think I already preliminarily measured this just to make sure that I had the materials that I needed. Because if not, I needed to buy a new piece this weekend. But I think this fits. Inside to inside on this piece right here is about 6 and 7/8. And I mean, I can measure it along the way. But looks like 6 and 7/8 is what we're looking at. And this piece right here is 7 3/8. So we've got more than enough width. What we do need is a piece that's 19, just a hair over 19, like 19 and a 32nd. So if we cut it at 19, we're fine. So we've got a piece that we're going to need out of here that is a 19 by 6 7/8. And this is, like I said, more than wide enough. We've got 7 3/8 width on here. So we're in good shape. So what I might do is go ahead and take this over to the saw over here. I never actually signed in here. Not that I need to. I'm going to bring this over to the saw, and then we can just cut out our 19-inch length that we need. And that will help us. Let me get my square. I want to make sure this end is squared up before I start cutting. That's a very square end right there, which is good. All right. And then I'm going to just double check this measurement again. I like to check them more than once. I've been burned from my stupidity. All right, 19 inches is what we're looking at. I'm going to get my pencil. We are going to make this, bring this over too. I'm going to measure off 19 inches. And then once we get this cut to length, we can take it over to the table saw and we can cut it to width. And then all we have to do is knock the round the corners down. Excuse me, and this will be ready for gluing into the bottom of the box. I hope I don't confuse things. I switch between the term box and base a lot. Sometimes I call it a box, sometimes I call it a base. I mean the same thing each time. Because, you know, honestly, I mean, it's very box-like, right? But it is a base. All right. Let me get this lined up over here. I probably should put some dust collection in, and I do need some power. So we'll get the saw all set up over here. I mean, honestly, I could leave this plugged in all the time to power, but the problem is I just don't have enough outlets to have this plugged in because I only use it. I don't use it while I'm using other tools. And so some of the stuff that I use, if I'm not using it in conjunction with other tools, it's not going to pop the breaker or anything. I just don't have enough outlets on the wall. Like if you can see over there, that's my crazy outlet system over there. There's 10 outlets on that thing, and all that is plugged into one little receptacle. So I'm not running more than 2 things off of here. Usually I'll run my dust collector and a saw, or my dust collector and my bandsaw, or my joiner, or my drill press, or my CNC machine. But there's never 2 tools. Like I don't have my bandsaw and my miter saw running at the same time, because that would be way too much draw on the power. I just don't have enough cords. Otherwise I would leave this thing plugged in all the time. That being said, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have your saws unplugged. All right, I do need this stretched out. Let me get my remote, and we can, this cut will just take a second here. So let's make it. Okay, that was easy. And all I'm going to do is just test fit that in here. Check it in the bottom. And I just like to make sure it won't fit completely in here because we're going to have to rip it to width. But I'm just checking the length on each side to make sure that it fits within the length of the base, and it does. So now, like I said, now we just have to go over to the table saw, and we will cut this to the specific width that we need, which I think, what did I say, 6 7/8? I think that's what I said. Well, I'll double check it again. Let me just put the dust collection in the table saw. And then I think I need to change the, did I change the camera angle already? I did not. So let's change the camera angle over to the table saw. We'll just knock it over here. There we go. There we go. All right. Got the table saw on there. So I can set this up. We can check the height on that. That's perfect. And I can plug the saw in. And then the last thing I need to do is set the width on here. So let me grab my measuring tape. All right, once again, I'm just going to measure this width on here. I mean, it's just a little wider than 6 7/8. So let's go 6 7/8 on here first. Get that set up. Oops. It's like if I go, according to that, 6 7/8. That looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna lock this down. Check it one more time. Yep. All right, we're just gonna make a quick little rip cut on this, or I think should be pretty easy. I don't think we're gonna have any issues with this one, except I need my dust collection. Okay. That was simple, which is the way I like it. All right, and now we're going to just check their width. So if I bring the base over here, you can see I'm just checking the width just to make sure that it sets inside of our rabbet ledge right there. It does. Now, it still won't fit in here, even though the length is good and the width is good, because it has square corners and my base has round corners where I cut that rabbet. Typically, what I will do is round the edges of this because it's easier than getting a chisel and squaring the corners. Now, I say that I might actually be able to square these off because this is just plywood that's in here in these corners because it's from the old base. You know, I think, okay, let's bring this over to the workbench. I want to look at this for a quick second because I think I can actually use my chisel and square this and not have to break out the disc sander, which is how I normally do this to get my nickel out. I have a nickel that I use to round the corners over for this particular bit because it makes a perfect radius. But I think in this, what am I sitting on? A lot of things. I think in this particular instance, because I'm dealing with old plywood that was there from the original piece that we cut this out of, I think we can get away with using a chisel. I have a very sharp chisel, by the way. I think we can get away with using a chisel and just taking out this little bit of wood, because I'll show you in here what I'm talking about. If you look right in here in the corner, that little piece of wood that's right there in that little bit, that's actually leftover plywood in that corner from when, we can see it any better on any of these, but that's leftover plywood. You can see where this cut went all the way through. I just need that to go straight. So I think instead of making this a rounded corner, we can make this a square corner. And I'm gonna grab one of the chisels I sharpened this weekend. I'm not gonna use the big one I get a smaller one here. And then, excuse me, then we can square this off. I think that will look good. We won't know until we try, but I think this is going to be easier. Typically, if that's hardwood all the way straight through there, I don't do this because hardwood is notoriously difficult because I have to chisel right down through it. But because this is plywood, oh my God, this thing is just kind of chopping right through those little plywood layers because it's very sharp on this chisel. And then I can actually use the new mallet. Let's give a little chopping on here. See if we can clean some of this out. Nice. And I think I can probably break some of this stuff free here. See if we can get some of this to come out of here. Oh yeah, this will work nice. All right, I'm just gonna make sure that I get this nice and sliced down right here, right in the corner. And then I can kind of come underneath it. I'm just gonna whip this thing around this way and just make sure that I've got nice, flat, clean area here. Sharp chisels are a joy. Okay, that's one square corner. I might want to move some of this out of the way here. I might want to just kind of clean up this edge just a little bit more right here, just to make sure that it's nice and flat. There we go. That's a good angle right there. I'm just making sure that any of the old glue that was in there is cleaned out. And then I've got nice, clean edges. But that looks good. All right, I think this will work out just fine. I like it. Like I said, I wouldn't normally try this with a, actually I'm gonna use big chisel for just a second, just so I can carry this straight line over, because it does kind of just make a little bit of a, makes it, the wood starts to curve just a little bit while we're still in the hardwood territory there. And then I could just pare that down. That's so nicely done. Come underneath. And this one is pretty much done. Yep. All right, well, this is working out much better than I had hoped. I don't want to jinx myself, but like I said, now this one, I think that line, just make a little slicing cut right there. There we go. And this has a lot of beef behind it, so kind of nice for making those cuts. And then I can just come in and pare this stuff out. Oh, wait, is he taking the dogs with him? Oh, he is. Oh, and there's other people walking dogs. Oh, it's that horrible, oh my gosh. It's the horrible dogs. It's the pit bulls. And they're nice dogs, but they're just kind of pains in the butts because their owners don't keep them under control. And so they just kind of have a tendency to wander around. And my son was taking my dogs with him to work while they were walking their dogs, which my dogs are very well behaved and get along with other dogs, but their dogs, they're a little rambunctious, we'll say. I chipped out a little piece of that, but you know what? I don't care as long as I have my square area here. All right, one more to do, I think, here. And then we can test fit. Let's see if there we go. We can do a test fit on here. And see if my base bottom wants to fit in here. So let me just shave out the rest of this wood here. Like I said, sharp chisels are a joy to use. All right, we have corners. And we can take our bottom. See if that fits. Oh, look at that. Come on, come on. No, no, come on. You want to do this? Let me put it in this side. See if I can get that to drop. I got one little bit right here. Hang on a second. Need to shave off just had to pare off just a little bit. And a little bit right here just needs a little bit of a paring. All right, I think we're good now. I think we are good. Oh, we are perfect. There we go. Look at that. Perfect corners in there. I don't have to do any roundovers. We are in good shape. All right. So the last thing really that I need to do on here is that large roundover. And, not the roundover, I'm sorry, the large rabbet bit, this one right here. Just like we checked on the bottom, I need to make sure that the top of this is flat before we move on to that point. Let me see how that looks. Because then once I get that cut, I'm going to go ahead and do the, I will do the gluing. So we'll glue this in. We'll put some pawls along here to make sure we get clamping pressure all along the edges and such. I tell you what though, so this is where I'm kind of like on the fence about what I want to do next. And that's because when I run that bit, when I run this bit on the inside, right, and I create that little rabbet cut that'll make a ledge for the machine to actually sit inside. When I do that, what happens is the surface area along the perimeter is reduced because I've removed wood with the bit. Where that comes into play is when I have to turn this over and then I have to clamp this down. I have to put a clamping caul on here. So we'll just say like this piece of wood right here, I would put this on the inside and then clamp to that because that spreads the clamping pressure across the entirety of the base, right? Or much further along this inside edge and gives me a better glue joint. The problem is if I have to put a clamp on here and then I have to clamp that from this side, there's not much wood over here for that clamp to hold onto. And that makes it much more difficult for me to get a good bite with the bit, or not with the bit, but with the clamp, because there's not surface for that clamp to sit flat onto. If I had a piece of wood that was the same size as this, that would make life easier because then I could clamp to the bottom of it. Like if I did this piece, which, okay. Oh, well, you know, now the other thing I could do is maybe take, I have this plywood that I have not cut down yet. It's wider, so it would give me a little bit more surface area for clamping. So like if I took this piece right here, you can see that that spans the entire width, which means that if I used a clamp on here, now I've got a lot more clamping surface on this side. I could do that, and then we could do the interior thing. Just all up in the air. You know what, I think let's do that. I will use a piece on the bottom for clamping. And the reason I say that is I would like to have this all done, and once we get the bottom glued in, this is a very fast base to make. once we get the bottom glued in and we have this ridge done here, this machine is, or this base is pretty much done. There's really not else to do. The only thing I would have to do is to put this in and flatten this down to the same level as this, and then put some finish on it, and it's finished. So this is a very quick base to make. Yeah, you know, thoughts. I have thoughts. And my thoughts are usually prohibitive. All right, I'll tell you what, let's glue last. Let's go over here to the table saw and check this for square. I can tell you right now it's not going to be 100% square because I can see there's a little bit of glue and stuff on here. So when I set this on here, okay, make a liar out of me. But I can tell that it's not, because what I need to do is knock the little bit of glue squeeze out that's on top. I need to knock some of that off of here. What I need to do is get some space. All right, this is my good bottom. I'm gonna make sure I keep this. This is a clamping call thing. These could be clamping calls, they're fun. But I'm gonna move these out of the way. It's AT&T, don't forget the watch TV is, what? What, hang on. What did you just say to me? Don't forget. That watch TV is going away on November. What? Oh no, I'm going to lose my watch TV. I love my watch TV. I love my watch TV app. Oh, I'm losing my watch TV app. They get it with my phone. It's a thing. All right, hang on. I'm going to come back over to the table here. I'm going to put this in. It's just my dog stop thing. And I've got to, even though it was sitting flush, I know it's not flush up top. I can see a little high area here. There's a little high area here. There's some glue squeeze out here. So even though it was feeling like it was flush, it ain't flush. Not the way it needs to be. So let's get a couple of planes out. And then once I get the glue squeeze out and stuff knocked down, then we'll recheck it for square and reevaluate whether we need to take any material off to make it sit flat on the table. But right now, I know it thinks it's square, but it's not. It thinks it's flush because I've got glue squeeze out right here, which we need to, ooh, look at that. Oh, just sliced a piece off of there. That's okay. And remember, this has been sharpened, so it's a little bit more prepared for this. There's a little glue over here. So I'm going to get this glue off. I'd rather do that with my block than I would with my other one. There's a little bit over here. Go, a little bit more. And then I have some high sides. So all the glue is off, and I'm just checking the corners. So I want to check all of these corners right here. I'm just rubbing it with my finger and just feeling if there's any bit, like right here, I can feel that this piece is proud of this piece. And not like in a, oh, my child is so wonderful proud, but sticking up taller proud. So this piece is proud of the side piece, so I need to take this piece down a little bit. And then over here, these are pretty flush. This piece is just a hair proud of this piece, so I'll do the same thing here. The problem is I don't know exactly which way the grain wants me to cut it. It's persnickety. That's a word. So we're just going to do like that. That's actually all I needed to get this one flush. And what I'm trying not to do is get tear out. Tear out is a horrible thing. I'm going to move this, excuse me, I'm going to move this whole thing backwards just a little bit, just to give me some extra room here. Tear out can really ruin a project. You get almost done, and all of a sudden you're dealing with fibers of wood that have been torn out. That's why I call it tear out. They've been torn out of the side. And a lot of that has to do with the direction that you're cutting, because it just sometimes prefers a cut in one direction, but not the other. So I'm going to try to slice this so I'm not cutting those fibers in a way that it does not like. And this is hickory. Hickory is horrible in that respect. Okay, that's pretty good. This one, the proud fibers are over here. Now, I'm trying to identify which way would be the preferred way, and usually you can do that by looking at the grain and then you cut downhill. Sometimes it just doesn't care. It's like, nope, we're gonna go against logic. But actually this way seems to be okay. So let me just get rid of these shavings. We're just taking this proud section down to make it flush. Almost there. All right, so now all four corners are flush with each other, but we'll see if it's square, because that's really the big test, is it square? Now I've got a little, just a tiny bit of wobble in here, where before I had none. And what that tells me is that I can just knock down just a little bit. So let's see, I think, let me try knocking down on this edge right here. And knock this down just a little bit. Ugh, don't like this. It was not much. And when you get to that point, you just want to make sure that you're not taking too much off. Let's try this corner right here. I'm gonna take this corner down, just like maybe one pass, and see if that makes a difference. Now I want to make sure that I'm getting even cuts. I don't want to just favor one end and not kind of taper this down to it. So I'm just gonna come back here. There we go, like that. All right, let's try that. We're really close. So I'm going to look and see if I can see where it's touching the table and not coming up at all. So this tells me that right here is probably just a little high on this corner. Let me see. So let's see if we can't trim this down. I hate this corner over here. All right, we're going to try this corner over here just again. And let's keep having to move my dogs here, but it's just easier that way. And let's try a little bit more there. So a little slicing on each corner. We'll come back here. Okay, I mean, it is really, 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 really close. I could take just a little bit more off of this side. Just a tiny, I mean, this is just like one pass and check it kind of thing. Because you don't want to overshoot it, then you just have to start all over again. So in order to not chase your tail all over the place, oh, we have a visitor, Liza Jane. So Liza, I am making a 301 base. So this is a base for a sewing machine called a 301. And right now I'm just trying to get it squared up so that it has nice square flat sides. And then I can put a groove all the way around the inside of it. So once I get it squared up, I'll put a groove around the inside, and that's where the sewing machine sits. So this is for an antique vintage sewing machine. Oh, there we go. Wait, uh-oh. Uh-oh, look at this. Look what we just did. Let me make sure there's nothing, okay. There was a piece of wood under there. I was like, wait, they can't be that wrong. All right, so I'm back over here checking it for square, and it is really square. And then we can Dave Montez. Nice for you to stop in, Dave. Appreciate it. It'll be in the playlist if you want to come back and check it out. All right, so now we get to put this big monster bit in here. We've got this big giant thing, and we're going to put that over in the table over here. Means I kind of need to rearrange things again, but that's okay. It just takes a minute to move stuff out of the way, and then we can put this bit in. Now we do need to change the collet on here. The collet is the collar, which hopefully if you don't know that, that's what it is. There's the collar that holds this in, because this has a 1/2 inch shank. It's really thick. The one that's in here only has a 1/4 inch shank, which is the straight part that fits into the collet. And in order to use this bit, we need to change the collet out, which is this big thing right here. So we will put this one in, we'll take the other one out, but I need to do a couple things. I'm just gonna take this off. That plate needs to be changed out for different anyway. And I need to raise the bit up to the surface. Oh, so squeaky. So squeaky. All right. Get my wrench. Okay, I'm just going to set this off to the side. I use this bit a lot. I usually just keep it here at the table because there are 2 bits that I use pretty frequently. One of them is that small rabbeting bit, and the other one is an 1/8 inch roundover. All right, I'm going to put the collet on here. Set this inside. And we are good to go. How long have I worked with wood? It's a good question. My wood shop that I have here, I've built up over a few years. I mean, I seriously started working with wood about, I'm going to say 3 years ago. I'm going to give that as a rough estimate, 3 to 4 years ago. And at that point in time, I decided that, you know, I need more tools. So I started kind of slowly building up the tools that I have. It's been a kind of an organic process over the years for getting all the tools that I need for doing the work that I like to do. And I would, you know, here and there, I add another tool. I'm in a very small shop. So if you're watching, it's hard to tell necessarily because of camera angles and things like that. But like if you look in my shop here, this is the back of my garage wall. And so I have tools like all around me here. I mostly work in half of my garage. I try to keep the other half sort of empty, but now I've got cameras and computers and such over there. So I've been encroaching into the other half of the garage, probably much to my wife's chagrin. But anyway, let me grab this piece and I'll show you what we're after here. Because this one's a little off. This is not a great one, but it does kind of demonstrate what we're looking at. We're going to make this little shelf that runs around the entire perimeter of the base. And what that does is allows the machine, it's called a 301, and it allows that to sit inside. So as far as my woodworking stuff, I started off actually working on making guitars. And so I have made several guitars. Problem is I don't sell the guitars, so it's not really a sustainable process. But my wife restores vintage sewing machines, and she's like, you know, you should make bases for these things because people always need them. And I was like, oh, I can do that and sell them. So that's kind of what I do to fund all of my stuff, is I make these bases and sell them. So this is the 301 machine right here. This is what fits inside of this base. Now, what I need to do is establish how deep. See, this one's not a good base. This one's actually ill-fitted. but it's because of the dimensions and such. So it's not like this one, I think, is not as wide by, oh. So we need to fit this inside of here. We need to establish how wide of a cut this is going to make, how deep this cut needs to be, and it's all based on this machine right here. That, and there's a smaller one, but smaller this way, not this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this, and it is 6 7/8 across, mostly. So if I come over to my base here, and I look at 6 7/8 and try to figure out where that would hit on this one, like if I measure from here to here, let's see if my little mark's there. That's going to be wider, so 6 7/8. It's right there, which means I need a different ruler because it's hard for me to see with that one. I'm going to use my big ruler here. 6 7/8 there, which is a 1/4 of an inch. So based on this, I need to take a 1/4 of an inch off of the perimeter of this on the inside. And the way I can do that, which kind of confuses me because my cuts change, but the nice thing about this bit is that it has different wheels, different bearings on top that can change and make the sizes different. So right now, it has a very large area here. So if I make the cut with this one, it's going to make a, how big is that going to be? 3/8? I think it's going to be a 3/8 cut. Almost 3/8. It's like 2, 4, 5 16ths, which gives a little bit of room on the side. So if I need, because 5 16ths is just a 16th over, right? It's just a 16th over a 1/4. So let me just, I'm just trying to do this come out. I can't put wood back, so I need to make sure I get it right the first time. So let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 16. So I'm going to mark it. And I'm going to mark it here. And then I'm going to check that, because I need to measure that and see what that total length is here. Make that cut there, and I make that cut there. Makes it 7 1/8, and 7 1/8 gives me just a little less than an 1/8 of an inch all the way around. It still seems like it's a little much. I could change the wheel that's on here and make my cut just a little less. I can always go back and make more of a cut. I can't make less of a cut. So let me find my calipers here, see which wheel I have on here. I think I have the 3/4 inch on here. Yes, I've got the 3/4 inch. And if I look at my little handy dandy little guide for this thing, that's in a language I don't read. So for the 3/4, that's going to make a 5 16ths cut. Can I go smaller than that? No? I think I can though. Because I have larger wheels. 3/4, 5/8, 1/2 inch, 3/8. I have a longer one. The 3/4 inch diameter bearing, use 1/2 inch long number 10 screw. Okay, so I have a 3/4 inch. All right, that uses the long one. but I have larger bearings on here, which is kind of weird that it doesn't tell me what the cuts are for those larger bearings. Just kind of strange. Let's see what my other bearing sizes are here, because I've got, like I said, I've got a 3/4 inch. I've got a 0.8, right, which is 113 1/28, and then I have a big one, which is this one's over an inch. So this one's like 1 1/8. Wow, that would give me just a tiny little trim. This one's going to give me about a 1/4 inch, I think. I think this one gives me about a 1/4 inch. So I might change bearings on here. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pop this thing out of here, and I'm going to change the bearing, and we're going to make a slightly less wide cut because I don't want to cut more wood than is necessary, because then I can't fix it. And I really want this to fit nicely inside here. So I'm going to bring this back up. We'll take the bit out. Oops, sorry. Actually, I can just change it right here in the top here. And then we'll make a test cut and just see exactly how deep that cut is. And then we can assess from there whether or not we need to, which bit we need to use. All right. And so there's a little set screw in the top here. I'm just taking the set screw out and hopefully not losing it, because that would make me sad. Take this off, put this one, that one's really big. No, this one. Yeah. So it looks as though, I mean, this would give me like an 1/8 of an inch less, maybe? I don't know. We'll make a test cut. We'll find out. That'll work. All right, I'm going to put the screw back in here. Hopefully. I might need the shorter screw. Why won't you go back in there? There we go. I might need it. I think there's a shorter screw, maybe a longer screw. Let me put this in here. We'll make a test cut. I've got a board that I can use to just do a test cut. We can check the, there we go. Okay, we will check the actual depth of cut that this one is making. And then I can use that to assess exactly, you know, which blade I should use to make this cut. Because I want to get it as close as possible. I want to have a little bit of room side to side for the machine, but I don't want it so much that it's floating around in air. And so sometimes just a little trial and error. True, very true. So if I take the like I can take the width of so that's like 1 3/8 inch maximum cut on the for the blades, and then if I subtract out 7/8 from 1 3/8, math, you know, that'll give me the width, and then divide that by 2. But you know what? I actually have a cheat here because I have my fraction calculator. I know, but math is hard. So 1 3/8. Oh, 1 3/8 minus, what did I say? Is that 7/8? Yes, minus 7/8 equals, and then divide that by 2 is a 1/4 inch. So there you go, 1/4 inch cut, which I think is exactly what we want. So but Liza says, yes, we don't want wobble machines when we're sewing. And I get that. I understand that completely, which is why I try to get these as perfect as possible. That should be a 1/4 inch. I'm going to make a practice cut anyway, just because that's what I like to do. See, this one right here, this machine right here, it's just a little too wide. So if I move it all the way over, there is probably almost a 1/4 inch of space in here, and there shouldn't be. There should be maybe an 1/8 of an inch at most. I try to keep it to a minimum. And it's hard because wood, you know, I try to cut all these the same, but it doesn't matter. And I'm not using a machine, like they're not being cut with a CNC. So there is some variance when I cut these by hand. All right, I'm gonna just take this piece right here and I'm just going to do a check on this one. I don't need to go that deep though. Just cut a little bit. All right, I'm just gonna make a little test cut on here. I'm gonna get this out of the way. Just to see for my own benefit. Because we've already established, I think everybody's already kind of come out and said, hey, that's what it should be. And you are right. That is exactly what the measurement should be. But that doesn't mean I don't want to check it again. Call me paranoid. Sometimes it's just good to see with your own eyes. All right, I'm just gonna run this through real quick, make a really light test cut, and I'm gonna use my handle here because big giant spinning blades scare me. So I'm just gonna make a test cut on the bottom here. That'll be fine. And I gotta slow this down. This is set for a smaller bit, so I'm gonna slow it down just a little bit. This is an Amana Tools bit, and they are like crazy sharp. So that did a fantastic job on here. But really what I can do now is get my, my calipers and just check. And 23 1/28, so basically that's a 1/4 of an inch. I mean, it's, you know, somewhere in there, yeah. It's pretty close to a 1/4 of an inch in there. I think a 1/4 inch is where I'm going to start here. The only thing it does do is change my radius just a little bit on the corners. So we'll see how that works because I do have an established radius. So this is the radius that I need it to be. I don't know if that's going to be, it might be close. So we'll see. If it does not remove enough stock, then I will just go ahead and switch back to that 3/4 inch bearing. And that should give us, you know, a little bit more room to work with. Now, the other thing I need to figure out is my depth that I want this thing to be. So here's the problem I have with working with antique sewing machines. For those of you who have I like this, like trust the math, but verify, which is what I do. The math works, but I like to verify. So here's the problem with these things. All these machines, they made millions of machines. This is a Singer, this is a 301. They made millions of machines. Problem is, much like my boards, there's almost none of them that are exactly the same measurement. I'm not sure what their casting process is. This is also a 301. This is a short bed 301. I use these for measuring. So what I'm going to do is take a quick measure here. And the way this base works is it accommodates both of these machines. So whether you have a long bed or a short bed, the base will accommodate either one. But what I need to do is establish how thick this bed is on here because I want to have this, so I want this edge flush with the edge of the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this back to decimals because I just like decimals better. And zero it out. And I'm going to just check the depth of this because this is what's going to set inside that rabbet cut. So that's 0.19. Come on, 0.19. Down at this end, 0.193. Down here, 0.18. Even on the same machine, you know, whether it's the thickness, 0.16 over here. Okay, do you see where I'm coming at? 0.18. I mean, there's not a lot of precision in the engineering sometimes. So I try to get it something close because I don't know what everybody's machine is going to be. This is 0.19. I don't know, you know, what the variables are on whoever buys this, on what their machine is. So I just try to get it something close to accommodating it. And if need be, they, you know, people can put little bits of felt or whatever to accommodate the thickness or whatever. But I think, see that right there is measuring 0.2. But I think 0.19 was my sweet spot for depth of cut. Oh, I need to get these out of the way. So I'm going to go with 0.19. Just because I think that's my best bet for this. So let me get this and see where we're at right now. So at the moment, we are set to a little deeper than that, I think. Yeah, we're at 2, so I need to come down just a little bit. Because like I said, I can always go a little deeper. I can't go backwards. I can't go more shallow. All right. 0.15. I mean, we're talking very little difference here. All right, let's try this again. 0.17. Come up just a hair. We'll get it. It's going to come. I mean, I'm only talking about, there's 0.188. We're talking about, what are we talking about? Like a 100th of an inch or something like that? It's not much. Which, when you're setting a router depth, not an easy thing to do. Get this again. Okay, 0.185. I'm going to lock it in right there. 0.185, I think, is a winner chicken dinner. We like that. Try this side just to make sure I'm not being uneven. All right, I think we're good on the depth. I'm going to run my practice piece through again. Yeah, they were saying that they wouldn't be surprised about the difference just because of the casting. And that's really, I think the issue is because these are not, it's not like they manufacture these things with CNC machines and such. These are cast. And so the variances and the variables in the casting process generally account for those inconsistencies that you get in the wood. Let me find another, I've got scrap wood everywhere, so hang on a second. Just grabbing another scrap piece here, and ooh, that's end grain. I don't want to do end grain. There we go. I'm just going to check this again for the depth of cut, and then we will make a cut on here and see how it looks. I'm going to put this up here though and turn it on because it's not going to catch a lot of dust, but hopefully it'll catch a little bit. All right, where's my paddle? Just do a quick test and then we'll make a test cut on here, or we'll do the actual cut. All right, that I only needed to cut a little bit, didn't need to do a lot, just a little bit. Just enough to check the depth. The depth is, see, that's only 0.1735. That's not what I wanted. So that's why I do a test. All right, well, it needs to come up just a tiny bit. Bring it up. Try it again. Actually, I probably ought to just leave that sitting there. Okay. We are at 0.1925. I mean, you know, splitting hairs now. But I'm going to go down just a tiny bit. There we go. All righty. Moment of truth. I'm going to put my ears on here for this one. And let's make a cut. And I have the machines here. And that's the best thing is I've got the machines. I can check them right away. All right, I just made it snow in my shop. That is a lot. I mean, that's a lot of fluff. All right, let me clean it up real quick. Okay, now the moment of truth. Need to grab a machine here and let's test how this fits. Hopefully everything came together and I'm short. How am I short? I'm short on the ends. That's interesting that I'm short on the ends. Because it shouldn't be. What's going on here? See, this is the weird stuff. I have to figure this stuff out and it just drives me crazy here. If anything, I'm like a fraction longer here, but because of that narrow width on the ends here, I'm not getting the depth of cut that I got on this one because I cut these deeper. Oh, you know, it's always something, right? It's always something. So if I look at the length of the interior cut from this rabbet cut, I've got 19 3/8. If I look at this one, I've got 19 inches. And on this particular machine, it's, well, it's hard to get a back measurement here, but I'm 19.5, which means I need to really open up my cut here a little bit more. I'm gonna have to change the bit to the larger bit to allow for that little extra 1/8 of an inch on here. Hoity-doity-doity-doity. Okay. The width-wise was great on this, but it actually is a little tight. I mean, it's a little snug. I mean, it's a little bit snug. So if you think about wood expansion and such, probably a little too tight. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to another bit. That should give me the perfect amount on there. By the way, if you're wondering about the little notches, that there's notches cut in here, You can see these notches. That's to allow for this hinge to open and close. So in order to allow for that, it's fine. Now, here's the funny part is if I use the short bed machine, yeah, that is a little tight. Just a tiny bit, but unfortunately, I don't have a size that goes in between those two sizes. So if I put this one in here, see, that's the short bed. And then what I do is I make these little bed extensions, if I can find one. This is the one that's going to go in there. I make these little bed extensions, but this also doesn't fit inside there. But that's what would go in front of that as a little bed extension for this little short machine. But that is, yeah, that's, I don't know if you can hear that. It's just a little tight. So, well, now that we know, is what they say, do, the more you know. Let me do this and see if I can get this setup size here. So I really want this to, I want to come back to that same size, and that'll help me get that size set up on there. I think. No, it's not going to do it that way. Okay, so I've got my size set up on here for the depth of cut. It'll get me close anyway. I'm going to unplug this because I'm going to be messing with the router bit, and I don't want to have it. The chances of it coming on are like next to nothing, but you know what? Better safe than sorry. We are going to come back to my little things here, and we're going to go back to that 3/4 inch. I believe that's the one we want. And we're going to check that. Zero out here. Just check that's 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to put this one back on, but like I said, I can always take more wood away. I can't add it back in. So that's the reason. Let's see if I can get this to lock in here. There we go. That's the reason that I started with that other one, because I would rather err on the side of not enough than too much. Too much is a pain. Not enough is just an annoyance. Back in there. Put the screw back in here. And it really doesn't take much to change these bearings out. But like I said, this is an Amana Tools bit, and it is super sharp. And I really, really like their stuff. They're expensive. I think I paid 80 bucks for this thing at Woodcraft. I think this one was about $80. Which is more than I usually spend on a router bit, but when you look at what you get for that and the quality of the cut, I'll spend that money every time. All right, I'm going to try to set this up, get that cut at the exact same height. I'm going to do another test cut on this. Should be close. We'll do another test cut. Make sure that we mark it so I know which side I've done here. We will do one more on here, check my depth, and then we will run this through again. All right, and this one notably wider, obviously, than the last one. So let's check the depth of cut here. So that says 2.4, so that's a little deep. We don't want to go that deep. We want to be at, what do we say, 1.9? So yeah, we're a little deep there. Let's see here how much deeper I am here. Yeah, we're like a 32nd too deep. Find another piece of wood. I'm just going to keep finding scraps of wood to use here. I need to find flat scraps of wood though. All right, try it again. Did I lower it? I did not. You know, that's weird because it says that this cut is, oh, there we go. Because one side cuts a hair higher than the other side, which is kind of strange. So I need to go down. Okay, you're not being cooperative. Oy vey. All right, I'm gonna make another cut here and check this one. It's just the only way I can do this. I was thinking about it, I was like, you know, I've already got this set up. I could just use the blade as a test to see if it's going to be the same size. I think it needs to come up just a little, tiny little bit. All right, let's try it again. I'm here until I hit this thing. Too much. That seems to be just right. All right. Because I don't want different levels on there. Like I don't want it stair-stepped when I make this wider cut. All right, let's try it again. Okay. All right, moment of truth time. If I go back and measure this now, now I've got like 19 3/16 on the length, which should be much better. And bring this over. And I'm still just a hair off on this end. I might have to trim this with a, I'll probably have to come in with a chisel and clean this up. I'm just going to draw a line on here and clean this one little edge up with a chisel, because honestly, everything else is good. My depth is good here. My fit is really good here. I'm just a hair short, and I would rather, my joint is good. I can clean this up with a chisel. I mean, I'm talking about taking maybe 1/8 of an inch off of here, but I can do that. I'll get a nice, really straight chisel line on there. So I'll do that later. That's fine. And sometimes, you know, it's just how you do the joinery and stuff. Sometimes you short yourself a little bit. I try to be really exact with my measurements, but sometimes it just doesn't add up. But we're pretty close here. I can fix that. I'm not worried about it. Like I said, I'll get a nice straight edge, draw a line. I'll trim it out with my chisels. It'll look wonderful. Now we can move on to, oops, jiggling the table. So now what I'm going to do, it's just about 1 o'clock. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to glue this in. Now that I've got that perimeter cut, and I'm going to glue this in so that we get a bottom like that. We already cut this, and this is a really simple operation. Just put a strip of glue all the way around there, put some clamps on it, and then we will set this off to the side. And so let me just put a really thin bead of glue around here. It's like super thin. Try to minimize the squeeze out that I get. Although I'm going to have a little bit, but I've got a straw over there. I'll suck that out. Oh, and I got a little bit. Need to clean my glue bottle out there. It was not giving me a really nice bead coming out. And the problem is you get glue on the interior of your wood, and then when you go to put stain on, it will not penetrate those areas where you had glue. But you don't really notice it until you put the glue or put the stain on, and then all of a sudden you find all those spots where it didn't quite work out. All right, I'm going to squeeze that down, and then I'm going to use, I think I've got a bigger board. Let me try this one over here. Let's see if this one's going to fit. No, it might be a little wide. Okay. Because what I want to do is give myself some clamping force on the other side here, so that when I clamp, because this is now thinner, it makes it hard to put a clamp on the back side. But if I put this piece of wood right here, now I can clamp on this nice big face and then up here, because I use clamping cauls. So let me get a couple of clamping cauls here and get this started. All right. Basically just, this is a piece of oak cut really straight and flat. It's got a piece of tape on there. It's not really necessary, but that should give me a nice surface to clamp to. Actually, let me grab my clamps over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just using little F clamps. Nothing really extraordinary about them, except that they have a nice flat face here, and I like that because it just makes clamping a little easier sometimes. So I'm going to put my clamping caul under here, and the caul is going to spread the force of my clamp across the face of, it spreads that force across the whole area instead of just in one spot. Just makes life a little easier. And let me get one on this side. See if I can find another clamping caul here. And one here. Oops, backwards. It helps if you have them all on the same side, like put all the handles on one side, because that way when you stand it up, it's a little bit more stable. All right, so right there. All right, and I need to just find a couple little pieces, like I could put this piece in here, which is fine. Clamping to these edges might be a little bit more challenging, but we'll give it a shot here. So I just like to clamp on all four sides because it gives me a really secure glue joint. But shoot, see, and this is what happens because those insides areas are not, because there's the clamping force on there is hard to get because of the way that's set up. Let me see if I can find, how much room do I have here? All right, well, necessity, right? Give me just a second here. So I need to cut this down. So I'm going over to my saw over here, and I'm going to cut down another piece to put in the back, because the problem is those clamps want to tilt because of that rabbet cut we just made, and that makes it difficult to get good clamping pressure. So I'm going to just cut down a piece of scrap ply here. Two pieces of scrap ply, but that'll work. So one of them will go right here. And now I've got a nice flat surface to grab onto with this, and hopefully make my clamping a little easier, which it seems like it will. And then that other little offcut that I just had right here, I can use that on this side, like this, and do the same thing over here. I just need a board to fit in here to clamp. Let's see, does this one want to fit? Look at that, there we go. Okay, so once this is in clamps, I will let this dry for at least till tomorrow before I take the clamps out. Second, let me get this one locked down. Now, the thing about the base bottom is that this is not load bearing. So that's not a load bearing bottom. The weight of the machine is going to rest in that. So the weight of the machine is all going to rest on this ledge that we cut with the rabbeting bit. So all of that weight is actually on this bigger part of the wood. The bottom is just basically to hold dust and debris and whatnot. It's not going to get used for anything that is going to bear weight, which is good because even though that glute joint is pretty good that I put in there with the plywood, I mean, I don't know that I would trust it to hold up a 14-pound sewing machine. Even when I make my my standard bases, I use the same construction in terms of putting in the base bottoms. So I can show you. So right here, this is a standard sewing machine base that I've made. And which camera are we on? We're in the main camera. So the thing about these are that you can see there are triangular pieces in the corners. That's what holds the machine up. And they're glued to the sides, not to the bottom. They set on the bottom, but they're not glued to the bottom. So the bottom is really, it's that same type bottom construction where I cut a rabbet and put a piece of plywood in. But these corner braces right here are what hold up the machine and keep it from falling through the base. And they're really, really sturdy too. I've never had one fail, which is a really cool thing. All right, so this is kind of at a stopping point now. Can't do anything else with it until the glue dries. And I'm going to set it off to the side because it's in the way. And this is the end piece that'll be that lid. So if you're using the short bed machine, this will fit in there, but I can't do anything with this until we get it all sized up, but that's okay. All right, so now kind of at a stopping point, which is kind of cool because what I want to do is I want to try setting up a machine that I have, or a jig that I have for doing some joinery. At the beginning of my thing, I showed off that I was doing some dovetail joints, which are fun, and I've got a jig that I use for them. But I also have another jig that I want to try. I'm going to pull it out. It's rather dusty, but this is my Incra Box Joint Jig. So this is a very cool little machine in that it allows you to set up for repeatable cuts and do the spacing and sizing for all kinds of different size box joints. And it is super, once you get it set up, it's super simple to use. And so I thought I would go ahead, and I haven't used this in a long time, and I was like, you know, I probably should break this out and use it again. So I want to get it set up. Now, in order to do that, I need to do a couple different things. First, I'm going to take my stock that is going to be my test stock, which is these boards. You know what? You should be able to see what I'm doing here. There we go. I'm going to take my test boards here, and I'm going to cut off the dovetails that I just did, and then I'm going to rip these down to 3 inches, which is the standard width that I normally make for my bases. I do a 3-inch standard width, and I want to get these ripped down to that 3-inch width. Then I will, like I said, I'll chop off these dovetails. So this is just scrap wood that I'm going to use for setting up and testing this tool right here, the box joint. And yeah, so I'm about 1/16 of an inch too wide on these, and that will be really easy for us to rip this down. Oh, just out of reach there. Okay, hang on. Let me set up my gripper so that I don't really. All right, when all else fails, use your big gripper. I have more than one gripper because they are set up for different stuff. So this gripper right here has an additional piece which offsets it from the fence, which now allows me to clear the blade with my little feet on here. So I'm going to set this on the blade against the fence, lock this down, and this gives stability so it doesn't tip. Because if I was to use this one, I could use this as an offset, but you see how tippy that is? That's dangerous. We don't like dangerous in the shop. We like safe. So I use this one. It's now super safe. I can take this and push it through. Fingers stay intact. We're all happy. I like being happy with my fingers intact. All right, let me just hook in the dust control, and we will trim these down to 3 inches. Then I'm going to just cut the ends off over there at the miter saw. Okay, and just a quick run to the miter saw, and we'll get these cut down over here. And then we'll have our two boards that we can use for setting this up and checking out the joint. I'm also going to break out my dado stack, and I think we'll set up a 1/2-inch dado, which will work out kind of evenly between these two. Where's that? Got a little chip off there. Let's go ahead and let's do right there. Should be good. All right. All right, got two boards all set up nicely, 3 inches. I don't care how long they are, but they're nice clean ends. And now what we need to do is set up our dado blade. So I need to get rid of this plate. You can't see me again. So I need to get rid of this plate, which is my zero clearance plate. And I need to get my dado plate out. We're doing dado cuts. This is one that I think this was an original one to the machine. It came with, I think it came with 2. I think that's one of them. Okay, give me just a moment here because I haven't used my dado stack in like a month of Sundays and I actually have to find it. I think it's under my workbench here. Oh my God. Oh, there it is. It's rather dusty dirty. It's pretty gross. So before I get moving here, I'm going to bring it over and clean this thing off because wow, lots of dust and dirt on this thing. So give me just a moment here. I'm just gonna vacuum it off here. It will just be easier that way. Just easier. Okay, a little bit cleaner now. It was pretty nasty. Like I said, it's under my workbench and that's where all the dust and critters live. Okay, so let's see here now. This is a Freud 8-inch Super Dado set. I got this on Craigslist, I want to say. Now, if there's any of you in the UK, I'm sorry, because apparently dado stacks are not allowed to be used there. Not sure why, but for whatever reason, they are not usable. So what I need is my inside blade, my outside blade, 2 E-blades, and it does not look like I have any spacers. So I need 2 1/8-inch 4-wing chippers, but no spacers. I don't see any spacers here. So I've got an inside, or this is my outside blade, like this. I'll just set it down here. So this is the outside blade. And that would go on this side of the blade stack. This is the inside, this is the outside. Then I have my outside blade number 2. So these, by outside, well, I say outside. Basically, this faces the outside of your stack here. So the blades, you want them to cut. So like this and this, you want those cutting heads to always be facing this way, or the cutting teeth, right? So these go on the outsides. And then I need 2 1/8-inch chipper wings. So, and the guy who had this previously was nice enough to actually label these. So these are 1/8 inch. So I need 2 of these. So there's one. And then here's another one. I actually have like a bunch of chipper wings in here. So there's another chipper. And then I've got what I have 2 more 1/8 inch. I have some 3/32 inch ones and a 1/16. So you can really get these things dialed in. Each of these have little plastic things underneath them to keep them from resting on each other, which is kind of nice. Let's see, so I've got 2 of these, which are 1/8 inch, and they go like this. And now if you need to, you can add some really thin, I've got some really thin metal spacers here, which add like, I don't know what these add, like maybe a 64th in thickness. So if you're really trying to dial in a cut, like say for plywood or whatever, if you need to make a dado cut through plywood and you want it to be super fit, you can super tune using these spacers to kind of push these in between these to push them out a little bit if you need to. All right, this should be locked in now to the correct orientation. And what you want to make sure is that your teeth are not overlapping each other. So all of these little teeth in here should be inside the cuts of other teeth. You don't want them overlapping on themselves. So mine would look about like that, right? So what I'm going to do is raise my table up, take my, I haven't taken the blade out in forever, so I got to get my table saw wrench, and I'm going to raise the table up. I actually have a stop on here, which is really nice. So if I turn this, it'll lock in place. So I don't have to use 2 wrenches. I can just use 1 wrench, stick this in here over top, and then loosen that nut. Now the big key here is don't drop the nut down inside the machine. That's bad. So there's my nut. There's the outside ring that puts pressure against the blade. And then this. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to raise this little handle and pull out my riving knife, because you don't need a riving knife with a dado stack. And I'm going to put this, take this out. Now this is my Ridge Carbide blade. This is an amazing blade. And if I wanted to do an 1/8 inch finger joint, like box joint, but with finger joints, I could use that because it actually has, it has alternating teeth, but it has a flat tooth also. So I get a flat cut at the top of the surface there, which is really nice. Okay, I need to make sure I put these in the right way. So, ouch. So we're going to start stacking these in here. So there's one. Get another cutting blade here. Come on. Ouch. Jeez. All right. And like I said, you got to make sure those blades are, the teeth are not touching each other, because if they're touching, they won't sit flat and flush. So you need to offset them so they will fit nicely together. Okay, I've got another spacer here, or another 1/8 inch cutting blade right here. That one went in much nicer. And then the final blade, which goes on the outside, right here. And this one needs to, like I said, be offset from that other one right there. All right, we are in good shape. I can put that on. I can put my nut on. I can hold this down. So let me get this locked in, and we will lock this into the table. Maybe, there we go. There we go. All right, and there is my 1/2 inch dado blade. I can lower this little guide back down. That just holds the riving knife in. So now I'm set up for a 1/2 inch thick cut on a piece of wood. And I'm going to lower this back down. And I'm going to get my Dado blade cover here. Right here. And I really don't need to worry about this. I'm not using the wood on top of here, so I mean, it's pretty flush. I'm not really worried about it though. Let's see, what I do need to do is get this to the thickness of my wood, because that is what is going to determine how deep my cuts are on the face, and that feels like you don't want much. I can just feel it on the underside there. So that's good. I'm going to lock this down so that it doesn't change my depth. Okay. All right, so this is, well, move my fence. So this is the Incra table saw and router table joinery box. I don't know what to call it, box jig. And the way this works, let me slide it here. I've got a lot of sawdust in here. There we go. Got sawdust stuck in here. Hang on a second. This lives under my router tables, or under my my planer table, so it tends to get covered in wood chips and such. So basically what happens is this piece right here is what you will slide your piece over to make the different spaced cuts. The first thing we need to do is get this all the way out of the way. So I'm going to loosen this, and we need to bring this all the way in. So it touches like that, and it should be, make sure, I need to hold this. Okay, that's perfect. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this whole thing out of the way, and we're going to make a cut. Ouch. I'm just getting this whole thing out of the way here. We're going to make a cut, a test cut, and I need to make sure that this is not going to impact that, right? Because that would be bad. So I need my screwdriver. So I need to make sure that my blade is going to pass cleanly through all of my pieces here. So we need to move this over. So I'm going to loosen this, and that just allows me to slide this over. You just want it about like maybe 1/8 or so close to it. You want to support the wood, but you don't want to interfere with the blade. So that one's fine. And this one, I'm just going to slide this one over towards the thing for right now. Why are you not tightening? There you go. And I'm just going to check underneath here and see that my stuff is going to pass through cleanly, and it is. Now, this is a wasteboard on here. I can move this wasteboard over and reposition it so that I get a nice clean cut, because that supports your cut when you're pushing wood through. In order to not get lots of tear out on the back of it, you want a supporting board behind it to support the wood fibers as they're being cut, and that way you'll get a nicer, cleaner cut. So what I need to do first is do a test cut, and just cut a piece of wood, and I need to move this thing all the way over. And hang on a second. There's a little handle here. What I want to do is check the spacing of my dado stack to use that to set up the foot over here. All right, can you come off? Thank you. So give me just a second here. I haven't used this in a while, so I haven't set it up. But once it's working, it is a super cool tool. It works really well. And All right, so I can do this. Let me they give me a little wrench here, which makes it easier to turn this little silver dial on the side here. Maybe. Which side are you going to go on? That one? There we go. Because I want to get this little silver thing out of the way so I can make my cut here. I think that's all the way. Where is the front of this thing? Okay. And I'm just trying to clear it out of the way here so that I have room to make my cut. There we go. Because I just need a little bit of space in here. I'm going to take my board. Well, I'm going to get a different board. I'm not going to use that one to set up my spacing because I don't want to sacrifice that one. But I can sacrifice this one right here. So I can run this through. It'll clean through my cut there, give me enough space. Now, I'm actually going to raise this up a little bit here. All right. Oh, come off of there. Raise this up. I'll reset that in a minute. That'll work. All right, I'm going to put the cover back on here, which is kind of a pain. You got to get these little nuts to slide through. I mean, I call it a pain, but it's actually a great little feature. And it has a little window here that you can look through. There is a wide section of this. I want to make sure I'm not cutting into the narrow section. I can set the depth right here, tighten this up, tighten this up. But this, it shields my eyes, so I don't have to have any chips flying up in my face, which is really nice. And let me make sure this is good. And then I'm just going to get a little clamp and clamp my board in here to make this first cut. Like I said, this cut is just a setup cut, and it allows me to determine how wide my spacer is to support my cut. And this is really what's going to help me through all of my cuts, is this first little area that we're getting ready to do here. So let me put my ears on. I've got the dust collection hooked up, and we'll just make a test cut with the 1/2-inch Dado blade. Of course, to make that cut, I chose the hardest wood I have in my shop right now, which is hickory, which was kind of stupid because hickory is so stinking hard. Anyway, so now that I've got that set up, what I can do is take this tool right here and what do I want to do? I need to do my KISS calibration, which is I need to bring this over and just want this piece touching my my blade. So I bring this all the way over. What in the world's going on here? Oh, I was too far. My bad. Is it right there? Is it right there? It's right here. Get that blade right there. You don't want that to hit your blade and that would be bad. So that is, then I turn this over, do my KISS calibration right there. Then I can change the stock size. I put this in here and I'm going to turn this little red dial until it fills up my, I think I have to loosen this. I think I'm doing this correctly. I may or may not be. I may have to go back and read the directions again. I watched the little video that I've got for it, but slide that out of the way. Now what I'm doing is sliding this over until it actually just fits up in that dado cut that we made. Support this piece here. And what you want is you want this to just fit over top of that piece. So you don't want it to be tight. Did that chip out? Oh, of course this piece chipped out a little bit. Of course you had to. But hang on. You just want it to just friction slide over. You don't want it to be tight. You don't want to have to really press it on. You just want it to be tight right there. And that looks like the spot. And so I can tighten this up. Now I have no idea if this is going to work or not, because like I said, I haven't done this in a while. So we'll have to see. I might have to go back and redo this again. The whole idea is if you do this, if you set this up the first time, this inside blade never changes. So that KISS calibration, it should never change. So basically what's going to happen is as I run this board through, and we'll just use this as my first board, I will push this to the inside. It'll make a cut right here, which should be perfectly the same size as this cut. Then I'll slide it over this one and over that, finish my cuts. That's the way it should work. Also, you need to have your boards oriented in the same directions when you're doing this. So I'm going to take a pencil or a pin, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to make a mark on here. There we go. So you can see this mark I made on here. This mark, I always want that mark facing to the left. And I also need to set my height now because I changed it just a little bit. So just right there. Okay, that should be perfect, he says, hopefully. We've got this set in here. I've got my marks made. So let's give this a try, shall we? Like I said, I'm just playing with this and experimenting. I haven't used it in a while, and I would like to get into doing some more different joinery and maybe using some box joints. All right, I need to make sure this is set up on the wide side. I need to set my board thickness here, so hang on a second. Set the thickness of my board here. Like that, lock these down. All right, so this first one, I'm going to slide it in, push it right against that key, and pray that this works. We'll see. I might have to make some adjustments. What time is it? 1:35. Well, a little long, but I don't care. All right. Let me check comments. I haven't checked comments in a couple of minutes just to make sure. Oh, yeah, they have, well, I think they have short table saw arbors for, I'm not sure why they do, but yeah, they're not nearly as long, which, I mean, you could still use like a 1/4 inch, but maybe they're only made to accommodate like an 1/8 inch thick blade, which is why you can't use a stack. And I don't know why they would be that way, but anyway, all I know is that they get jealous of Dados because we can use them and they can't. All right, let's make some cuts here. So I've got the little mark on the side. I'm going to push it. I pushed it against the little teeth there, and then I'm going to make a cut, and then I'm going to slide it over that saddle and then keep moving down the line. And then we will put this piece in and make the corresponding cuts for this one. So I'll show you how that works. So now that this is done, what I do is I take this piece right here and I put it over that last cut, put it over the fence, and then, or no, I turn it backwards this way. So I turn this face this way, I slide this over the key, like this. Then I take this piece with my mark this way, slide it up to, lock it in, like this. So I lock this one in, take this one out, and I make my first cut. Trippy. Not very deep. Okay. So I screwed up. I know how I screwed up. I absolutely know how I screwed up, so we're going to fix it. So what I did was when I set the depth of cut, I set it to the table, but I didn't set it with this on here. Oops. So I need to set the depth of cut on top of this piece right here. So we need to set this blade and bring this blade up so that I get a depth of cut that is equal to this. Yeah, that was my mistake. Whoops. So let's bring this up. Let's check our depth of cut here. And then what I'll do is I'll make, so just so you can see, I mean, and they should fit pretty good. They're also just a tiny bit tight, which there's a way to loosen this. But I think what I need to do is loosen this key just a tiny bit. Because if I loosen this key just a little bit, it changes how my fit goes, I think. That feels better for a fit. Okay, so we're going to go for the other side now. So I'm going to do it this way. We'll try the other side. The other thing is, 1, 2, 3. Am I getting a 1/2 inch cut on these? I don't know. 0.5, so it is technically a 1/2 inch, a tiny bit over a 1/2 inch. But anyway, I'm gonna put little X's over here so I know that this is the side I want to have down now. We'll try this again. Like I said, I haven't used this in a while. Once you get it set up and not locked in, you get it dialed in and it's amazingly accurate and you get really great repeatable cuts. But it's all in the setup. And my setup was garbage to start with, so need to fix that. So I'm just going to get this set up so I can have my correct depth here. All right, first one, sliding it over to the pin. It's still a little tight. There we go. So I'm going to slide this over to the pin, and then I'm going to lock it in. Now my height should be much better this time. And there is a way to actually like space these out so you can make micro adjustments. I didn't lock this down. You can make micro adjustments to change the width of these things. So if they're just off a little bit, there is a micro adjuster that you can change. I have to go back and look to see which way exactly the micro adjuster makes those changes. But anyway, this will get me close. And then, you know what, I'll fine tune it later, but I just thought it'd be fun to show you this tool because once you get it dialed in, it's really, really good. All right, attempt number 2. Now, hang on, did that wrong because I want my X side. That's the side we're gonna use. I want the X side, we're gonna push it against the tooth there, lock it in. Okay, here we go. I'll take this, turn it around, put it over. This X, do it. Should be it. Okay, that should be it. So you can see makes really nice fingers, right? And then the big ticket is, if the X is up, will these fit together? They are a little tight. So I will probably need to make a micro adjustment on these things. They should go about like this, but they are off just a little bit. I mean, like maybe a 64th. And that, like I said, is just a matter of tuning this little fine adjuster over here, and I've got to figure out exactly which way that works. But that's why you do test stock like this, and I can cut these ends off and run them again, and it'll work. But anyway, once I get this dialed in, you can see that this will make really, really nice box joints. And I mean, you can see how that's kind of fitting together, right? So finger joints, box joints, whatever you want to call them. And then the tops here should all be pretty flush and equal. So yeah, so I think that's what I'll probably do for the rest of the day. I'm going to spray paint or lacquer my stuff, and then I'll kind of get that dialed in because, like I said, I'm almost done with my little Franken Base, the one we were working on before. And so once that base is done, it just needs to be sanded and stained and stuff. So that's kind of easy to do. Isn't really stuff that I need to share with you guys. But what I will do is break out some of my more exotic woods that I have. And that's why I want to get this dialed in, because I'll make some larger bases. I'll probably make another batch of these standard bases. So let me bring one of these over just to show you again. So I will probably make more of these, and got to give my computer a good dusting. But these are really nice in that I can do things like, let me get another camera here. I do engravings on the front, so you can see that I do like the Singer logo on there. I do that on my CNC machine. It looks really nice. And I have a test machine that I'll show you. So I do lids for them. So you put the lid in, fits really nicely there. My dusty machine fits in here, and it looks like that. So that's the base I make for a standard machine, and it looks really good. I've got these dialed in, so they are pretty easy to make. In terms of their construction, the only thing I would like to do, like I said, is maybe change up the joinery I use for the corners, because I was using these large rabbet cuts, but I think for some of this stuff that I have, like I've got some zebra wood, which I think would look kind of cool with finger joints, or box joints, if you will. And then I can also do things like I can do roundovers on the box joints, which is kind of cool looking. If you've never seen that, it's kind of a neat effect. And so, yeah, different stuff. But I do have some different wood. I've got some sapele, I've got some zebra wood, I have some walnut. I don't know what else I've got over there. Maybe some oak, maybe, I don't know. I've got some cherry. So I've got some different stuff that I think would be really cool. The zebra wood, not cheap. I may have to do just standard bases with the zebra wood. I don't know if I have enough wood to actually make these lids, and that's kind of a large part of it, is I need to make the lids to fit on the machine or on the base. So if I don't have enough width for a lid, I'll just basically get rid of the side compartment. It's just this part with the zebra and with the box joints. It's still, that zebra is, I don't want to say $19 a board foot, $20 a board foot, something like that. It's not cheap. And so I will use it as judiciously as I can. I'm going to try to just use the exact amount that I need, minimize my waste because it is so expensive. And it's also going to be a more expensive base because it's just premium exotic wood. So, you know, it may sit in the shop for a long time, but it'll resonate with someone. Someone will love it and will treasure it. Just like these other ones, I make these, and you know, sometimes they sit for a while, and sometimes I can't keep them in the shop. They just fly out. So it just depends. But this is my most popular base right here. This is cherry with the logo and the side compartment, and I sell these things as soon as they're in the shop. They don't last more than a day or two, and they're gone. For those who don't know, I have an Etsy shop. So if you look up JR's Wood Shop on Etsy, that's where you will find my stuff. There may be a link in the description too to my Etsy shop. I also sell them on my Facebook page, but that's kind of a different story. Facebook's kind of nice in that I can sell them and I don't charge state tax. I do charge shipping, but I don't charge the tax. If you buy it through Etsy, you're going to end up paying tax and shipping, and I have to give a percentage of the sales to Etsy, and everybody gets their piece of the pie. So I do charge less on my Facebook page because I'm not having to pay fees, but a lot of people like buying through Facebook, and I get it, but you know, I'm pretty established. I've been doing this for a long time, and so I'm pretty reputable, but I understand people sometimes are a little hinky and they feel much better buying through something like, they'd rather buy through eBay than they would through Facebook, and I get it. And sometimes it's the only way I can sell stuff is put it on my Etsy page. I've got a table right now that I made for a featherweight that I had on Facebook forever, but the problem is I don't want to ship it. It's big, it weighs like 30 pounds, and it's a knockdown table. So the sides and stuff, everything folds onto it. It's like in double layers. So the legs fold up into one big piece, and the tabletop folds into one big piece, and then it fits together on dowels and things. So it's kind of a complicated table, but not really. But I was hoping to sell it in person because it'd be nice to show somebody how it sets up, you know, what the pieces are, how it sets up, and then they would have a full understanding. And also I would know that when they left, they had a fully functioning and perfect table, and I had money in my pocket. If I have to ship it, well, if they get it and break it, and then they'll just say, my table was broken. And I'm like, was it really? Or did you break it trying to put it together because you didn't really understand what you were doing? And now you want me to cover the cost of a $500 table because you said it was broken in shipping. So that's why I hate shipping things like that, because I know I'm going to get screwed one day on something like that. So I would rather sell those things with local pickup only. Problem is, Etsy doesn't allow local pickup. I can't find that option anywhere. And so if I have to ship it, I will package it super, super, super well. I'll make a video on how to assemble it, and hopefully the person who gets it doesn't break it when they get it and try to throw that back on me because they screwed up. What are you gonna do, you know? But it's beautiful table. It's like $500. So, you know, I need to sell it. It's beautiful. It's made out of, it's all handmade out of cherry, beautiful brass hinges. It's a beautiful table, you know, stained and finished and sprayed in lacquer, and it looks fantastic. But it doesn't matter how good it is unless somebody buys it, right? And I don't need it, so I got to put it in the places where people will see it and where they'll buy it. It's just one of those things. Anyway, it was a busy Monday. Lots of stuff done. Some weird things that I'm gonna have to work out measurement-wise. That just, I think I was off just a tiny bit. My boards were measured exactly, so I know my measurements were good. But for whatever reason, when we went to do that route on the rabbet, I came up just a hair short. So I got to figure that out and see where I might need to make an adjustment to my measurements for future bases. I keep a cut sheet for those things right here, and I make notes on them. So I'm gonna have to make notes on that one as to how short I came up, and maybe make some changes to the length and such. Which bit I used for, you know, the routing and things like that. So I always try to make notes, and that way when I go to make my next one, I'm usually covered and things are a little bit more repeatable. So, but anyway, we made good progress on that. We got the box joint out. I'm super close. I mean, like I said, there's just a tiny bit of adjustment that needs to happen on this. I mean, I could pound this in there, but that's not really, that's kind of stressful for the wood. It just needs, like, I'm serious, like maybe a 1/28 off of each leg, and that thing would be perfect. So I got to get the micro adjuster and just read how to make that micro adjustment. And then I think we'll be good for that. And then I think Wednesday when we come back, I will either be milling wood or have milled wood, and we can start actually making some cuts and some joinery stuff. And yeah, we'll move on to the next batch, but we'll use some more exotic woods and we'll have some fun. This thing should be in its final stages of of finishing. I do have to make the lid that goes with it, and maybe we'll be doing that on Wednesday, but we'll see. I'm not gonna bust my butt on that one, because it was, like I said, that was just a reclamation project. I had some leftover wood and I used the sides from the one I screwed up so that I didn't have to toss those. So anyway, kind of cool. And I did the 301 engraving, which that one's different. I've never done that 301 engraving in the front where it says 301 and kind of little decorative things. So we'll see. Maybe people will love that, and that'll be a new thing I do. So anyway, well, thanks for stopping in, guys. We had some good fun here. Everybody's stopping in. I had JF coming in, throwing in some comments, and Liza was here, and David over on YouTube stopped in. Facebook, not too great. Nobody popped in on Facebook, but the rest of you, I really appreciate you stopping in. I always enjoy it when people stop in and have comments and questions and you know, throw things out there for me to consider, because I don't know everything, and I love learning new things and finding out how people do things differently than I do. So thanks for stopping in, and I'll be back here Wednesday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So if you get the chance, I'd love to see you. Until then, take care.